perception is that senior citizens are not really digitally savvy, but our experience has been that they're actually quite digitally savvy. Launched an initiative called the Living Room on Facebook, which was basically a Facebook live session where we got experts and tastemakers and celebrities to just come and do live conversations with our residents.
So, welcome to all of you to yet another episode of Icons Behind Brand video interview series Back to Basics. And today we are happy to have amongst us a leading marketer and the astonishing and powerful Senior Vice President of Marketing at Columbia Pacific Communities, Ms. Piali Das Gupta, with an award-winning experience of beyond 14 years across e-commerce, retail, and real estate. She is a marketer and communication expert. We are glad to be with us someone so skilled in many traits such as brand driving and brand architecture. We are inspired by her success stories, which drove her to being a speaker at I Am Shillong and I Am Ranchi, a jury member at various occasions, and lot more. Thanks for joining us, Piali. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Devlina, for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Piali. So, Piali, tell us more about your journey and background.
So, I actually started my career in journalism. I did my master's in communication, and then, my first job was with the Times of India. And I spent a little over 5 years in journalism. I was a fashion journalist with the Times Group, and then a couple of other publications as well. And then I decided to switch over to the brand side. India at that point was actually at the cusp of the digital revolution, and I think digital was just becoming like a big thing, and print publications were slowly but surely losing prominence at that point. And I decided to kind of move over to the brand side because my degree was in communication, and when you do a degree in communication, when you do your master's in communication, you're actually exposed to all facets of communication, right? I mean, you do everything from advertising to PR to corp com to brand marketing to brand communication essentially, and to journalism and new media. So that's the entire spectrum that you covered as part of the course, and I didn't really want to get stuck doing just one thing. So I moved over to the brand side with Myntra, heading content for them. Launched 3 different video properties for Myntra, one of them being a very popular one called the Myntra Makeovers, which is still an ongoing property. Then post Myntra, there was I worked with Amazon, where also I set up social media for Amazon Fashion in India. And I was also part of the core team that put together the Amazon India Fashion Week. Post Amazon, I moved to the Publicis Group because I also wanted to do a stint in advertising, considering that's something that you're taught in your master's degree as well. And I hadn't ever worked in an agency. I was always on the client side. So I wanted to move to the agency side to understand the agency way of working and what really goes on inside the agency, the way the businesses are handled, the way accounts are managed, and so on. And with Publicis Group, I had this great opportunity to join them as their creative director / somebody that would head the branch here in Bangalore, meaning looking after their accounts at Aditya Birla. So it was actually a part business, part creative role, where I was also responsible for all the accounts here. Some of the brands that I worked with there was Louis Philippe, Alan Solly, Peter England. Those were some of the brands. And then after my stint at Publicis, by then I had already spent almost 13 years in fashion. And I wanted to do 12 years in fashion, and I wanted to do something that was markedly different from fashion, because I realized that I was getting very typecast and I was getting pigeonholed into doing just one thing. And I also realized that I had a very narrow worldview, and my worldview was just about fashion and everything that was happening in the industry. And that's when I decided to take the plunge and join Columbia Pacific Communities, which is the country's largest senior living community operator. It's a very, very new space. It's a very new space for me. It was a bold decision, I'd say, but looking back, I think it was a great decision, because I think the learning curve that I've had over the last 3 years here, I think I wouldn't have had that if I continued being in fashion. So yeah, that sort of sums up my 15 years in the industry.
So I think it's definitely a bold decision, what you said, Piali. Coming from a completely different background, a glamour to a senior community, which is again a very positive and enthusiastic segment, but at the same time, it's a very different segment, very different mindset it needs, right? So yeah, it's amazing, and I'm sure you are doing a great job, and you have a great future ahead, which defines your diversity of thinking, in a different way altogether. So, as you're from a different background, so you might be facing different challenges as well, right? So, what has been your biggest hurdle so far in an industry like this, where the target group is senior communities, in the last 15 months, and how did you overcome it?
Right, so I think the last 15 months have been challenging for any business, right? I mean, this is an unprecedented event, and it's a black swan event, as a lot of people are calling it. And I mean, I don't really want to get into the fact that nobody really saw this coming, etc., because that's obvious. But I think that particularly with senior living, I think the fact that we were dealing with a demographic that was the worst hit because of the pandemic made it all the more challenging.
Right.
Because in the if you remember, in the first wave particularly, seniors were considered to be the most vulnerable as far as the virus was concerned, right? I mean, their immunity levels are low, their bodies are more susceptible to kind of getting impacted by the virus, and I think that's really what made it tremendously challenging. So I think our biggest challenge was to ensure that our communities, and we have 9 communities across south of India, so it's a massive task to actually manage 9 communities. The biggest task was to ensure that the communities were ring-fenced, that the communities were safeguarded, that people were, our residents were safe, and they were kind of operating within a very, very protected environment where everything was under very watchful eyes, right? So I think that we also ensured, our frontline workers ensured continuously that every minute requirement, minute day-to-day requirements of the residents, whether it was vegetables that they needed, whether it was a haircut that they needed, whether it was drawing cash from the ATM, everything was brought to their doorstep.
Wow.
Every single, including an ATM machine, including vegetable vendors, including just about everything that they needed. Their provisions were sent to their doorstep, their food was coming to their doorstep, so there was no reason for them to step out at all. And so the children of our residents, who are all across the world, I mean, there are people living in the US, in the UK, in Australia, in parts of Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Singapore. They expressed tremendous amount of gratitude towards the kind of service that was given to their parents, and they were relieved knowing that they're in good hands, and they were relieved knowing that, not only are there people taking care of them, but a Columbia Pacific community is literally the safest place that they can be in at a time like this. But the challenge therefore was to ensure that we were able to first of all take care of their requirements, which is never easy in the midst of a pandemic, and secondly to ensure that strict, very very strict protocols were in place. All guidelines that were laid down by the WHO and more were put in place to ensure that the communities were ring fenced, that no outsider was allowed to come inside. Outsiders, including employees of Columbia Pacific communities, were not allowed to come inside, and that's how protected the environment was, and that's the way we ensured that the risk of infection and the number of people that were impacted by COVID was very very less, despite the fact that a lot of our communities were situated right next to containment zones. So they were high risk areas, and at the same time, within the communities we were able to protect our residents. So I'd say that was the biggest challenge. And I think the second big challenge was the fact that at a time like this, in the last 15 months, now of course people have gotten a lot used to the quote unquote new normal that we're talking about all the time. But when it started happening back in March 2020, all of us were struggling to kind of cope with this new way of living life, right? Because we had no idea how to kind of go about it. And imagine seniors who were not able to interact with their children physically, because their children were not able to visit, other people were not able to visit, their relatives were not able to visit. Imagine how isolated and lonely they would feel. And there was a lot of hopelessness, there was a lot of sadness, there was a lot of loneliness, isolation, a lot of mental health issues that we came across. And it was therefore also important for us to ensure that they were, while being physically distanced, they were at least being socially connected, right? So we ensured that with a lot of activities that we organized within the communities, which were all digitally empowered, a lot of inter-community contests and activities that we continue to do. Even right now, we are in the midst of a month and a half long inter-community contest called Platform, which is a talent hunt essentially, which will culminate into World Senior Citizens Day next month on the 21st of August. So those were our attempts to ensure that while being physically distanced, they were at least emotionally connected with people. And we also launched an initiative called the Living Room on Facebook, which was basically a Facebook live session where we got experts and tastemakers and celebrities to just come and do live conversations with our residents, with senior citizens everywhere, really, not just our residents. We opened it out to senior citizens everywhere. And, they could actually chat live with celebrities and with experts, with luminaries from the comfort of their living room, right? So those were some of the initiatives that we took to ensure that, that they were feeling less lonely and they were feeling less vulnerable. But I think, it was equally important for us to take care of their mental state and mental health, while ensuring that all protocols that would save them from contracting the virus was in place. And that was never an easy task at all.
That's right. In the time of uncertainty, like what we have been facing from 15 months, as you said, in the initial time when we all were very uncertain about like what is happening and what is going to happen, and I can't think of any better way to contribute to this segment, like how the Columbia Pacific community has done it the way you said, because taking care of their physical health is one aspect. At the same time, their mental health is equally important. So I think it's a commendable job which has been done. And a lot of positivity and enthusiasm has also been spread through the brands, right? So during such time like pandemic, many brands they got involved in the social cause and social initiatives, like creating a positivity in the society through the campaigns, a positivity and enthusiasm around the seniors and their contribution to the society. And Columbia Pacific Communities has created multiple award-winning campaigns like Love Not Label, Reach Out, Love Beyond Age. So how does the company continues to roll out such purpose-driven campaigns that add more value and meaning to the consumers?
So, Devlina, so let me start by saying that at the heart of everything that we do is our brand purpose of positive aging. It is what defines our every action. It is what sets the tone for everything that we do. It is something that determines our service philosophy, and it is basically our North Star, right? Positive aging is a very, very simple philosophy. It believes in looking at age as just a number, and it basically entails helping seniors live a healthier, happier, more connected, physically stronger, mentally more agile life. And that is what is positive aging. It is about ensuring that you don't let age become a deterrent to anything that you want to achieve in life. And it's a very, very different philosophy on age and aging. And because this is at the center of everything that we do, our campaigns also reflect positive aging in some form or manner. Every time we think of putting something together, because the primary objective of every campaign is to actually take our brand philosophy of positive aging ahead, right? I think the campaigns that you named, and yes, it is true that we've gone on to win many awards, 27 actually at last count. But we don't really make campaigns because we want to win awards. The awards are are an outcome of the good work that we do. We make campaigns because we have something important to say, and we make campaigns because we are here to change the narrative around age and aging, right? And to make aging a part of mainstream conversation in India. I think that's not happened, and I think for a very long time seniors have been neglected. Seniors are not part of any kind of popular culture, any kind of mainstream conversation. If you look at it, they're not really part of films, in a big way. Bollywood doesn't really pay too much attention to them, nor does advertising pay too much attention to them. When was the last time we saw somebody who's 60 plus on the cover of a magazine? So these are things that we think about, and because we have a very strong point of view on this, we do campaigns that challenge these notions, that challenge these stereotypes that exist in our society about seniors, right? And I think that some of these campaigns that we've done, they have been able to successfully build a very, very strong narrative by including seniors in creating an experience that people usually don't associate seniors with. For example, in Christmas 2019, just before the pandemic hit us, we actually organized South India's first senior citizens flash mob in Bangalore, right? And this was in some of the busiest streets in Bangalore. This was on MG Road. This was in Garuda Mall. This was in ER Bengaluru Mall. And you don't expect seniors breaking into a flash mob and dancing to jingle bells, but that's what we went out and did. We trained a bunch of 9 senior citizens for about a week. We got a choreographer on board. We trained them. We took them to the streets. We obviously made arrangements for their safety and security with an ambulance and all of those things. And we made them do a flash mob. And of course, it hit every newspaper out there, and it garnered tremendous response. We had people from the streets dancing with them, and the brand. Not only did we garner a lot of positive response and just a lot of positive sentiment, but I think it was a very, very bold statement to make, right? And it stood for everything that the brand believed in. And so with all the initiatives that we plan, right, it is about empowering seniors at the end of the day. It is about taking the philosophy of positive aging forward through these campaigns that we do. And it was very important to continue to do that even through the pandemic. So during Christmas last year, while everybody was socially distanced and everything had to be done on digital platforms, we got 6 senior citizens from our communities to actually present something for the hearing and speech impaired community in India. We got a sign language trainer who trained our residents to present jingle bells in sign language. And that was presented to over 400 speech and hearing impaired people in India over a Zoom call. And of course, I mean, when you do something like this, and then when you enter the awards with a campaign like this, I mean, people do like it and we end up winning awards. But the awards are not why we do it. We do it because positive aging is something that all of us, top down, bottom up, we really, really believe in, and we believe that it is the single most important, narrative that we want to drive. And we've been successful in kind of owning positive aging in the last 3 years, and we will continue to do that. And that's what our aim is through all the brand campaigns that we do.
So what I understood with that, Pyali, that when you connect deeply with a real purpose, award is the byproduct of that. So that's how I think you have connected. And the flash mobs in the Garuda Mall, I stay in Bangalore, so I know how is Garuda Mall and how is MG Road. So I could, sense it. I could live it from here, that I mean, how it would have been when, few seniors are coming and they are dancing on that, the kind of enthusiasm and positivity it spreads among not only to the young people, to the seniors also. So that's a great example and the great way. I wish all the very best to Columbia Pacific to spread more and more positivity around this positive aging. Yeah. So I'm sure, when you break the stigmas and the perception, it's not an easy job, right? I mean, you have to break the mindset in people's mind. So what has been the biggest way the consumer approaches your segment? So what has been the biggest change, the way consumers approach your segment today versus 5 years back? So this is a long time and we have been seeing a lot of positivity around it.
Right. So I think that's a great question. I must admit, though, that 5 years back, I was not part of this industry. But yes, I do have a sense of, what things what things were like 5 years back. And I think I have to say that COVID has been, a tremendous amplifier as far as, this category is concerned. COVID has actually been a catalyst, and it has been able to trigger a need that was always there, right? I think the difference between 5 years and now is that 5 years back, seniors looked at senior living communities as an option that they may or may not have considered. Today, I think from an option, it has become a need, and they have realized that it is a need today. Right? And I think COVID has made that happen in the last 15 months. But even without COVID, I think what has really happened in the last 5 years is that our economy has grown. I know the GDP numbers are not great, but despite that, the economy has grown to whatever extent. More and more people have left. More and more people my age, or let's say the 28 to 40 age bracket, they have left their hometowns, right?
Yeah.
In order to pursue careers that they have wanted to, and a lot of them have actually migrated from the country as well. They have actually moved out of the country, and a large number of them have migrated from the cities of their birth, and that has left a large number of seniors alone in their hometowns, and these are the empty nesters that we talk about, with nobody to take care of them. I think that this really has brought in the shift in looking at senior living as an option vis-a-vis looking at it as a need, because seniors have realized that living in a community which is self-serviced, and living in a community which is sort of fully equipped with everything that they need, with every need of theirs taken care of, with every chore taken care of. It's a zero headache lifestyle, and I think that when you live in a community which offers you zero headaches, because everything is kind of taken care of, from your from your meals to your cleaning, to your laundry, to you name it. It's just a better lifestyle, and it enables them to really focus on things that they want to do, right? It enables them to reconnect with their hobbies, their passions, and that then makes them stay mentally more agile and happy, which then leads to positive aging, right? So that's really what it is. It is community living, and the concept of community living leading to positive aging. And I think that's really what has happened. I think more and more seniors have realized the need for living in a community in the last 5 years.
So, if you ask me, I also remember till some time back, this used to be a very sad part, that parents are staying in a different place, in an old age home, or maybe a senior living community. That was a stigma around the child and with the parents as well. So bringing from that emptiness and sadness to the need, and to take it to the pride level, I think this was much needed.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, Devlina, I couldn't agree more. In fact, today's seniors, I must tell you, they're nothing like how seniors were 30 years back. I mean, if you look at our parents, for instance, I mean, they're extremely proud of who they are, and they're also very, very independent. They have that sense of self-pride, and that self-pride is and self-respect more than pride, I would say. That sense of self-respect is so high that they would not want to take money from us. They would not want to depend on us. And I think this is it's a general observation that we've made across across communities of seniors that we sort of deal with. And therefore there is a lot of pride to live independently, to take charge of their lives, to lead the sort of lives that they've always wanted to, and to basically really be in charge of their destiny, right? So yes, there is a lot of pride. So there is a lot of positive sentiment, I think, now. But I have to say that a lot still has to change. It's not as if we've been able to completely uproot the stigma and the misconceptions. They still very much exist in society. We still have children coming to us and say that it's we don't want to abandon our parents. And we still have a large number of people likening senior living to old age homes, which they're not at all. Senior living has nothing to do with old age homes. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So people in India still are warming up to the idea, and they're still kind of getting to know about the idea. So there's a lot of awareness that needs to be created around the category.
That's right. And also, I mean, it's not that they're just not dependent on us. They are contributing to, their children's success also with their experience and all. So my next question is, Piali, how do you reach out to your target group, which is a senior group? And I feel it's definitely an uphill task, especially when you need to reach out them digitally. So, yeah.
So actually, Devlina, this is a question that I'm asked very often, and I think the general perception is that senior citizens are not really digitally savvy. but our experience has been that they're actually quite digitally savvy. In fact, they are on all possible platforms that is out there. They're very, very well versed with WhatsApp, as you know. They
Yeah,
are
yeah.
in fact, WhatsApp University runs because of them. On the flip side, though, that the WhatsApp University runs because of them. But the good news is that brands can actually connect with them through
Yes.
WhatsApp.
Mhm.
They're on email. All of them are on Facebook, right? And of course, some really really savvy senior citizens are actually even on Instagram, which is usually considered a millennials
Yes,
platform,
yes.
right?
My father is
So I
also
think
there.
right. So I think that this is yet another misconception about senior citizens. In fact, a lot of them use a lot of the delivery apps that are out there.
Mhm.
I don't want to name them, but yeah, they do use a lot of the delivery apps. They do use a lot of the payment modes, the digital wallets. So they're fairly well versed with the digital universe. And for us, we have actually even before COVID hit, we have always been a digital first brand. And for us, marketing efforts have been hugely skewed towards digital, because we believe in being a brand which is emerging in the category. We believe in efficient marketing. We don't believe in huge sort of spillage, massive wastage. We don't necessarily have that kind of luxury and liberty. Um, and so we have found the digital, in terms of ROI and ROAS, have been the most um, the most hardworking channel for us, right? Of course, we have done our print campaigns, we've done radio, we've even done television, which usually real estate brands don't do. But
Mhm.
for us, I think digital has been the biggest success, and we continue to use that. And we have not really faced any major challenge in reaching out to seniors through digital. It's just about knowing how to target them, I think.
So in the world of data and algorithm, how do you balance between dealing with the data and yet stay connected with your consumers emotionally?
So I think that's a great question. It's a very pertinent question for a category like ours, because in a category like ours, everything is about emotion. If you
That's
take
right.
the emotion out and if you take the EQ out, right, then there is nothing left in this category. You can't sell senior care or senior living with just data and with
Right.
just collateral that's kind of talking about a product, because it's not about the product. People are not coming to you because of the product. The product is simply the real estate asset, but people are not coming to you because of the asset. They're coming to you because of the service that you provide. They're coming to you because of the promise of a much better future that you're kind of giving them, right? And so while data today, particularly in the day and age that we live in, where martech is the buzzword, and where I think digital innovation is at the center of everything that we do. But while data is very important and we are constantly informed by data, so we are not averse to looking at data. We are constantly informed by data, and a lot of what we plan in terms of media is informed by that data. But it is never devoid of emotion. So our communication is never devoid of emotion. You will never see us do print ads, for example, that will have a per square feet
Mhm.
price, saying call now or buy now, or you will never see us do things like that. We don't believe in doing things like that, because we are very very certain that something like that will not work for us. So it is always about storytelling. It is always about creating a compelling narrative. It is always about understanding the customer's psyche. And in our case, the customer segment is also quite interesting, because there are two main segments. There is the primary customer, who is the buyer of the solution, who is a senior citizen himself or herself. And then there is the secondary customer, people like you and I, who might want to consider something like this for our parents, right? So it is about understanding the psyche of both sets of consumers and understanding customer sentiment, and looking at listening data, for example, looking at market research data that we do from time to time, looking at brand research data, being informed by it, but at the end of the day, doing something that we feel will have a great emotional connect with our consumers.
Awesome. So I think that is the essence, and that is the job of the person who is sitting behind the marketing side, that connecting the data with the emotions of the people, where human is talking to another human, is the core essence of marketing at this point of time, right? Yeah. So what?
So the person that is buying is a human being. You're not selling it to a robo. So you have to understand that behind that data is a human being, right?
Yes.
So you're not selling to data, you're selling to a human being, and therefore you have to be informed by that.
Yeah, and which is the core of any marketing. I mean, you just
the connect. Absolutely, any category actually, but particularly in our category, I think emotions play a very important role.
Very, very much. Yeah. So what principles do you rely upon, Piyali, I mean, during the toughest moment as a marketer?
Listen to the customer. Yeah, listen to the customer, have your ear to the ground, understand the market sentiment, and take cues from there. There can never be a bigger truth than that. A marketer that does not listen to the customer will fail, and that's a lesson I learned fairly early on in my career, and I think I've kind of stuck to that. So yeah, listening to the customer, whether it's a tough time or not, but particularly during the tough time, listening to the customer is very important. And I'll give you an example. When COVID hit, both in the first wave and the second wave, I mean, we stopped all our performance marketing initiatives because we just thought that it was wrong for us to want to sell something at a time like this, and we entirely pivoted our communication, which I'm sure everybody did. But in our case, it was about empowering seniors. Very recently we did a campaign, you mentioned that, called Reach Out, which was basically about helping seniors reaching out for mental health support, because we realized how vulnerable they were feeling at a time like this, when there was devastating images of people losing their lives all over television channels and newspapers. Every single day you woke up to only bad news. There was no good news, there was no hope anywhere. Our seniors were feeling extremely restless, hopeless, anxious, and we wanted to do something for them. And we tied up with Fortis, mental health, the mental health cell of Fortis, and we created this campaign called Reach Out, where there was a number that people could reach out to free of cost. It was a toll-free number that they could reach out to and talk to counselors. And when you do a campaign like that, and you actually spend money behind a campaign like that, you're not doing it to sell anything. It has no business objective at all, right? There are no business KPIs attached to something like that at all. But you're just doing it because you feel that at that point in time, your customer needs you. Your customer wants you to bat for them, and you need to be able to do the right thing. You need to be able to take the right decision and do the right thing and support the right thing. And for us, it was important to do this, right? And had we not listened to our customers and listened to the market sentiment at that point in time, we would have never come up with a concept like that. So it is about listening to the customer.
I think that's a massive, initiative which has been taken by Columbia Pacific, the Reach Out thing, especially the second wave, which has hit almost every one of us very personally. We all are connected to that. I mean, we have a lot of memories just 2 months back. So for the seniors, even if I know people who are very positive during their life, but those 2 months were very, very difficult for all of them. So just to talk, people needed something. So I think the Reach Out was a simple thought, but it's a great, massive initiative.
Yeah.
That. Right. So what is the best mentoring advice you have heard over the period of time? Really?
That there's no shortcut to success, I mean, that you have to work hard and you have to keep at it. I mean, and it doesn't matter how senior or junior you are. I mean, learning never ends. It's a lifelong process, and the sooner you realize that, the better it is. And I think the moment you become complacent and sort of less rest on your laurels and say that, oh, I've won so many awards and I've done this and done that, I think that's pretty much the end of it. So you have to continuously work hard, be aware of what's going on around you, and constantly innovate, because that's really the need of the hour. And learn and learn more. So yeah, that's been the best advice.
So that's a great line, and I also personally believe on that there is no such thing exists called shortcut to success, and there is no replacement of hard work, right? And so I'm now moving to a very interesting section, which is a rapid fire round, which is one of my favorite round. I spoke about it with you also. Yeah, you have to answer in one word, Piali, here.
I'll try.
Yes. So one brand you admire the most other than your own?
I think Chanel. Yeah.
Right. One book or podcast you would like to recommend marketers?
I think the book called Rework.
So one of your hidden talent?
I don't know if it's hidden, but I can sketch.
Oh, wow. One thing about you that surprises people?
That I can dance, I think. Yeah. People don't expect me to dance, but I can dance.
Wow. Your biggest professional mentor?
One is Charulata Ravikumar, who is my ex-CEO. The other great mentor is my current boss, who's Mr. Mohit Nirula.
Your message to the marketers?
Prioritize mental health, to prioritize. There's no other way to do this. I mean, to find time to prioritize mental health and do more of what makes you happy. It's simple. I mean, if that is reading, read more. If that is meditation, meditate more. If that is talking to friends, do that more. If that is going out for a jog, do that more. But basically prioritize mental health, because if you're not able to do that, you're not just in a bad place yourself, but you're also you will find that it will impact your work as well. And I know that it's easier said than done, for sure. I know that it's very easy for me to sit here and say these things, but when there is a deadline, there is a deadline. And when there's a lot of work, there is a lot of work. When there are campaigns that need to go live, they need to go live.
Right.
And it's not always possible, but we have to keep striving, and we have to keep trying to prioritize our mental health. I think that if we realize that we work to live and not the other way around, then I think a lot of it falls into perspective, right? A lot of it falls. A lot of it then kind of starts making sense. But often, we take our work life so seriously that it's almost like we work. We live to work, which is not really the case, right? So there are other parts of our lives as well that we need to kind of focus on, and it's about constantly trying to strike that balance, which is not easy, but we have to do it.
Yeah. So as you said, Piali, this particular topic is one of my very close also. So I could connect it very easily. See, deadlines and timelines are very, very important for us as a professional. At the same time, our own sanity, our own peace of mind is also, very important for us as a human being. But balancing between is like, when we are aware with the mental health and we take care of our mental health, we prioritize that. It is just, we might feel anxious, we might feel angry, but how fast we can come back. So I think, taking care of your mental health, it helps us to come back too fast, because you are aware that now you just have to balance it off. So
true.
Yeah, it's amazing having you, Piali. A great conversation on various topics, starting from the marketing to the communication to communities, societies, in different ages, and then to the professional life and the mental health. So amazing conversation, great key insights, and I'm sure it is going to add a lot of value to our viewers who are going to watch it. And thank you for your valuable time. It was wonderful having you here.
Same here, Devlina. I really enjoyed chatting with you. This was, great interaction. I wish you all the best, and I hope that viewers take away something useful from this chat.